Does anyone else want to introduce themselves? Okay, well, we're joined by the student unions and admin. So if you have questions that you don't necessarily want to go to student government, you have like all the student leaders in the school here. So the theme for today is academics at Charter. If you guys saw, we posted a form maybe a week or two ago with just feedback from students to get a topic for today's town hall. And the majority of the feedback we got was centered on academics. So for the beginning of the town hall, we're just gonna read out the concerns we got and just present both sides and see what you guys think about it. Okay. Questions? All right, I'm gonna start.
I just wanted to say we have someone taking notes.
Yeah.
So it will be your perspectives and input and voices will be well documented for the record.
Yeah, the notes are also gonna be posted on the student body Schoology. So if any of your friends couldn't come today, they can read up on it. The first concern we got was canceling midterms. So here are the sides that I'm seeing there. We haven't had midterms in a long time. That was when the seniors were freshmen. Midterms are extremely stressful, and they count for what, like 10% of your grade? It's a lot of work going into that midterm. So I see the reason to want to cancel it, but also it's inevitable that we'll have to take midterms in college. And high school's purpose is college preparation, I guess. So I don't know, what do you guys think? Okay.
In terms of the middle of the holidays, I really think it looks like a bad way to end the holidays. Personally, I think it does make sense to test it. Okay, this is cool. I just don't see a need for a test in the middle of the year and then get retested on that at the end of the year with finals or APs. And especially with we have one semester classes that only have finals and there's no midterm in that. So why don't we just apply the same logic to a full year class?
So put your hand up and I'll move the mic around. Someone was over here, right? No?
Most of us here are seniors, and we haven't taken a midterm since freshman year. Senior year is one of the most stressful years of our entire high school career, I guess. I don't think it's fair to introduce midterms on our last year of high school when we are currently very overwhelmed. We're all dealing with college apps and trying to deal with all of that stress. It's added stress I don't think is necessary. We know how to study. We don't need to learn to take midterms. We'll take them in college. And we already have finals. It just seems unnecessary.
I kind of agree with what the first speaker said. I feel like with the holidays going on, I feel like the last thing I want to do is study for multiple tests at the same time. And I'd rather just spend the time with my family.
Okay, so I know, I do, obviously, I also wouldn't want midterms for that reason, but I think that obviously it would be hard to convince the administration. A potential compromise, a potential compromise could be the same idea that we do for finals, that if you get a certain grade, maybe you can miss out on it. For say, if you have because that shows that you know what you're doing as a compromise.
I agree with that breakup, but I was also thinking maybe possibly, or like make them required for certain classes. Like I know science midterm or finals are all required, I think, and then also maybe like required for AP classes since they are considered like college courses.
I was just gonna say, I think I agree with Alyssa that, like midterms, like we're gonna have to take a lot of tests and like stuff like that in college. I feel like it's good to, learn how to do that before you actually get into it and have to pay for those classes and stuff like that. So like for experience, but I think with like the idea that it's really close to the holidays, I think I saw that it was pushed back, like, or I think, yeah, for this year, it's like the last week of January, right? So maybe, maybe that would be better, or like we could push it back further, something like that.
Thank you, everyone. Kayla, I hope you're taking notes. I liked the points about compromising. It's hard to just completely banish midterms as a high school. So I like the ideas of like the same rules for finals where there's a 93 or something like that, or it's up to the teacher, or you just have to take them for the AP classes. And I hope that this is something that we can continue talking about. For reference, our student government meets with admin every other week. So we're using these town halls to make sure the points we're bringing up in our admin meetings are things that the student body genuinely wants. So all of these points are things we're going to talk about at our meetings with admin. So this will be brought up, and all your ideas have been noted down. Okay, any last words on that question? Okay.
To add on to Janelle's thing, maybe like if the midterms are towards the end of January, maybe like a week before, they can lighten up the schoolwork a bit, or make it like a midterm like review week so that there's not like double amount of work.
I like that point a lot. And I really do like that midterms this year, like 3 weeks after instead of 2 weeks. So I won't be spending winter break studying.
Yeah, I mean, I just wanted to add, like, when we're scheduling midterms and having, like, taking everything into consideration, I think it would also be a really good idea to take like bigger school events like Culture Day or Student Expos for History Months into consideration, because I do think we are aiming for like a Culture Day in the January area. So it's yet to be finalized, but I do think like events like that should also be taken into consideration, because it might be hard for like people who are presenting or performing to juggle both studying for midterms and like rehearsing for the event.
I think that's a good point. And I also think January and March every year are always like months where like less things are happening. And I think that kind of adds to our stress. So I agree with your point. That should be taken into account, because I think our student events are like the best thing ever. Like I think that's really good for our community. Okay, let me pull up the next question. Does anyone else want to like do what I'm doing? Okay, here you go. The next one's banning the credit cap.
Oh, awesome. Okay.
Oh,
I need the, yeah.
Hi, everyone. My name's Ivina. I'm the Student Body Vice President. And another topic that we were looking at was banning the credit cap. So a lot of people want to take a lot of different courses, and we understand that it may be exciting that you want to take courses that you wouldn't be able to fit into your schedule otherwise. However, another thing would also be having enough periods in the day to make sure that you're actually able to get the most out of your classes. If you're not taking classes that you're actually interested in, or perhaps you're taking too many classes, you may fall behind in them, or you may not get the most out of them. So does anyone have any ideas or any compromises on how you want to approach banning the credit cap? Yes.
I think like along with the worry of like that students will do too much and like stress themselves out and like stress, like just like be overwhelmed and fall behind, especially because like the people who want to take so many classes might also be the same people that want to have a lot of other stuff on their plate to keep them busy, like extracurriculars and stuff. So I think a compromise could be, if you want to take more credits than like the cap, then maybe you can like meet with your counselor and come up with like a plan on like how you would like manage your time and how you would like, what's it called, make time, if you don't have a study hall, make time to like make sure you're not overwhelming yourself, and maybe like throughout the semester, 1 or 2 other meetings to make sure that you're like doing all right. And this is, actually I have another question, but let's ask that later.
That sounds good. Oh, okay.
I think a compromise could be is, I think that banning it altogether might not be the best idea, just because, again, like, if there's like a student that's taking like so many credits, they're gonna be competing against like people in like with their transcript and everything who might not wanna do that. So I think a good idea might be, you could have like a 0.5 to 1 extra credit, because I know a lot of people will be like, oh, I wish I had like 0.5, I was allowed 0.5 more, so maybe like give a little leniency on that.
Okay. I think it's also about like, rather than having like a max credit, it's also about like the required courses that take up those credits. Like gym, for example, you have to do freshman and junior year, but some of us do sports like all year round, and gym is supposed to give you like physical exercises, like a break from your schoolwork. But for the people who are already like student athletes competing on the school's teams too, it just seems like it's taking up like an unnecessary amount of credits that you could use to replace with like a more fun elective or something.
To your point, for like your leniency, what you're saying, like half a credit or full credit, I think like either way, because there's only 8 blocks at a time. I think it would be like 8, since like right now, I think the cap is like 7. So I think even if we ban the cap, it would still have to be 8, because it's not like you can take more than 1 class at once in the same block. And to your point on like how like sports can like excuse you out of gym, I think that the 1 full credit of gym in high school is a state requirement, but I'm not sure. I think it is. Yeah. I mean, I feel like if people want to take like 1.5 extra credits, it's clearly because they're interested in a subject. So I mean, if the compromise means you have to get it approved by your counselor, like that's fine. But I don't think like anyone should be openly against it, because yeah, it's a lot to have to balance all of that work, but it's clearly because the student's interested in it. It's not like they're trying to take an extra required class, like a basic social science or math or something. So I think it's fine.
So I agree with what you guys are all saying about like credit caps and stuff. I feel like the credits is more directed towards the minimum amount. Like you have to take a certain amount of classes to pass that year. And I remember my freshman year, I had all the credits, so I couldn't take any more classes, but I really wanted to do band at cap. So the compromise, which I talked to MacBack, my counselor, about, was that I could take a symphonic band, but it just wouldn't count as a credit. So that's what I did. I completely took the class. It just didn't count towards my credits. And that's only because I just loved playing an instrument. So that was the compromise we did.
I think that's like a really awesome idea, like, because when I see banning the credit cap, and this is just my opinion, if everyone like is like, let's please ban it, then I'll work with it. But I think balance is really important. And as a student that is taking a lot of advanced classes and is involved in a lot of extracurriculars, I don't think I would be able to take 8 classes. I'm really thankful for the 2 study halls that I have. And I think, like, if you miss a day of school and you have no study halls, that's time out of another class where you're making things up and then you're getting behind. If you need to meet with a teacher to go over test corrections or studying for a test, or just you need to talk to a teacher about something, you don't really have the time to do that. You might be able to do it during an activity and miss one of your club meetings, or beg your parents to get you into school early to talk to that teacher. But it just seems like an added stress when the majority of the academic complaints we hear is that students are too stressed. I think this would be adding to the stress. But I really, really do like Gavin's point that if a student is genuinely interested in a course, then that student probably would be willing to take that class and not get the credit. But I think commonly we see the students that want to get into top colleges, which like totally support. It's so that you want your rigorous transcript. You want more APs. You want to take harder classes and to look more appealing. And that's just a lot of stress. You won't be taking 8 college classes in college, so I don't see the point for it. But if you want to take an elective or a band class and that's something you're really passionate about, I don't see a problem with that. Like, I really like the science electives I've taken, and I would probably take them if it didn't count for credit because they didn't add to my stress at all. It was just a really fun thing to take. So yeah, I like the point about taking an elective class rather than a core class or an AP class. Okay, thank you.
I just wanted to add, like, if this reduces anyone's stress, your colleges, like, if you're trying to max out your transcript to, like, take extra credits to look good for colleges, like, colleges know what your max credits are, and they know that you've taken, like, you've done everything you can given your opportunity. So, like, you should not be comparing yourself to someone in a different school that took, like, that had no study halls and just took, like, 2 more credits than you, because they're not comparing you to them. So it's not, if that's the reason that people are saying it, which I'm assuming that is for some people, just know that that's not, like, that doesn't really make sense in terms of, like, college, because they're not looking at that. They're just seeing what you did given the opportunities that you had. And if you really want to impress, like Gavin did, he went above and beyond and just, took the class without the credit, that's much more impressive. So, yeah, if you're actually passionate about it, you can do that, I think.
That's a really good point.
I mean, I think freshman year was like a transition year and everyone's trying to like get used to the school. So I think definitely freshman year would make sense to have the credit. I think like Gavin did because he wanted to do it. I think it is fair that they had the option that he would do it. But I think again, freshman year is supposed to be like a transfer year. So I think that year they definitely should at least have some sort of like limit so that everyone can get used to it.
Also, one more thing, this is like kind of related, but if we are going with like how we have it right now and like you take a class just because you're passionate about it, could we let like students know? Because I know a lot of stuff that are like, if you talk to your guidance counselor, you can make it happen. Like a lot of people just don't know that. And so they just think they can't because it's not in the credit. So if we just let people know, like if you want to take a class not for a credit, just because you're passionate about it, we can actually make that happen. Just talk to your guidance counselor kind of thing. Like maybe it'll happen. Or like, I know that there's like programming and algorithms, you can take it over the summer. I don't know if everybody knows that, but like there's a lot of stuff like that where it's like you can work stuff out where students just don't know that they're allowed to have these, like have a conversation with a teacher and do something that's like not standard. So yeah, that's all.
Yeah, I like strongly agree with that because I didn't know until Gavin said that. That's really cool though.
Yeah, I just have a really quick point. I feel like if we're going to increase the credit limit, we should increase it by a set amount and not just ban it completely. As I know, some people have some really strict parents and like very pressuring families that if they know there's no credit limit, they might pressure them to take lots and lots of courses that are outside of their like capacity. So I think if we're to increase it, maybe like 1 to 1.5.
That's a really important point, yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I think the credit limit is important just because I feel there's already a lot of pressure being in this school. Like, to like take a lot of classes and stuff like that. I think, like kind of building off what was previously said, like kind of getting at more like the root reasons as to why people might want to go past the limit, like maybe like opening up like AP classes like to sophomore year, because I know like that's a lot of the times why people would want to go past the cap. Yeah.
To add on to Tara's point, I think that another problem with like not just like getting rid of the credit. It's not our bell.
That's not our bell. You guys can stay.
So, okay, so I think that a problem with not having a credit limit, to add on to Tara's point, is that when colleges will look at an application, they'll be comparing like someone who like took like, I don't know, like a lot of classes because there was no credit limit versus someone that took like the standard amount but still worked hard. And although that was their choice, I feel like that it just makes, like, it's gonna cause people to, at charter especially because it's so competitive, it's gonna cause people to want to take so many classes and then end up not doing that well.
I agree with that point. And also, I forget who said just making sure students know. I think it's also important that students know that colleges are going to be aware of something like that. Like colleges get a report from your high school and they know that there's a credit limit. So I think if students were aware of that, maybe there would be less pressure to break that credit limit. Okay, is that everything for that question? We probably only had time for like one more. But we'll try to also include, I guess, just like different views on different questions we got in our notes at the bottom.
Yeah. The next one is fairly similar. It's about phase placement and student choice.
Oh,
So,
yeah. Like students wanting to have more control over what phases they're put in, as a side to the test we take before we come to charter. And having, I guess, the dominant role in that process. I know like a student can talk to their counselor and the student that said this is aware of that, but the initial placement more.
Yeah, I definitely think that's something that needs to be like explored. Like I understand the placement test, like some people just like aren't good test takers, but I understand like it serves for like maybe the first semester or your first year. But I think, like, for example, like a few things, just like what phase you take in a specific class, like sometimes people feel like with certain teachers, it's really hard to get up and they're kind of stuck. And I feel like I understand that we don't want people to do too much and stress themselves and overwhelm themselves. But I feel like if students are able to make well-informed decisions about their classes, like that's what you're going to do in college. This is a college prep school. And I feel like students should have more like ability. And also like, how for certain AP classes, you have to be in a certain phase prior, and like a lot of AP classes, there aren't like non-AP versions. So if students aren't in the right phase or have the right grade, they'd never have the opportunity to like explore that subject. I think they should definitely like be able to elect that if they're like well informed by their teachers on like what workload that would entail. But yeah.
So I also think that phasing from students is also good. I think there is a lot of room for growth in the 9th grade year. I know my year was virtual, so it was sort of a challenge, but when you enter high school, you're sort of not aware of the different study techniques that you could use or the different resources or even the friends that you could study with. So I think that by having students choose their phases, maybe after freshman year, after they've gone through a phase and seen how it works for them, that would be more effective as we'd be able to actually make sure that everyone has the resources that they need.
One thing I will say about like changing phases, like in math, being phase 4 in like math 2 and then jumping to phase 5 math 3 is really difficult because like you learn certain subjects and sometimes you just don't get as far as the phase 5 kids do. So you jump into a new year, like not learning what is expected, if that makes sense.
We'll keep sharing points about that question in the notes. And then we'll also share different points about other questions we got. Thank you all for coming.